Hi, my name is Caitlin McHale-Floreal. If you don't know me, I run a nonprofit organization here in Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic, that primarily serves the Haitian immigrant slash refugee population of Puerto Plata in the areas of education, social aid, and community development. So we've been doing a podcast slash video interviews. I think this was interview 9 or 10 that I did with a good friend, Martine. And Martine and I met close to 10 years ago when she started coming to the Dominican Republic. And she's Haitian American. She's a super generous woman who has an organization called Center for Research and Education, and they have an inauguration coming up. If you follow our Facebook group, if you're a member of our Facebook group, you've probably seen some dialogue about one of the young men who graduated from our group home, Sony, who's a welder, and I shared some of his work, and Martine commented underneath that she would be sending plans because she had contacted me, so I tagged her and that brought that post back up bumped it up to the top. And so I think some people saw that, and so she shares around minute 30, she shares, if you don't have time to watch the whole video, she shares how that went, and she still has work for Sony, and it's gone really well. So if you'd like to hear about that and don't have time, you can skip up to that. But I hope that you can hear the whole thing. She has a really interesting story to tell, and she's just been, like I said, a great friend. She's helped us out with school meals. She's helped us out with English books for camp and for club. She's helped me out as a leader on many occasions, strengthening me and giving me cultural insight, being my kind of Haitian American friend that bridges the Haitian and American gap there, and just always has my back. And the last time that we saw each other, she even brought me this shirt. They call me Catalina here. She brought me this shirt. It says Catalina. It's showing up backwards with the 85 on it, which is the year I was born. So she's great. I think she randomly found it. I don't even know if she realizes that's my birth year. But here we go. Here's the interview with Martine. Thanks for watching. Okay, so Martine, thank you so much for being willing to do an interview today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I think you have a great story to tell. So you're in Long Island, New York, right?
Yes, I am. I'm actually in my backyard now.
Okay. So first, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your family history, how your family came to the United States from Haiti and under what conditions. I know you shared a little bit about it with me before, so I would love to hear more about that.
Okay. Well, I could say that I was born here, and my parents and all of my siblings were born in Haiti. So, well, not all of my siblings. There were a couple of us that were born after me here in the States when my father remarried. So basically, my father had been traveling to the US and to Canada in the early 50s. And one of the times that he did travel, it was here in 1957. And Papa Doc, who is Duvalier, the father, he
Francois
became
Duvalier.
president. And my father was told not to return to Haiti through officials here, not to return to Haiti because he would be killed. That was the message that he received. So a couple of decades later, I was born here. Not even 2 decades later, I was born here. And my siblings had been back and forth. And at that time, they did allow for the family to stay there. But the rest of my uncles, my father, were in hiding in either here in the States, in South America, or in Haiti hiding. I could give you just a little bit of background on that. So Duvalier, Francois Duvalier, was actually a friend of the family, and he was a household member, meaning he would come over our house, and they were young intellectuals growing up together. He was a brilliant man, and he did recognize the ideologies of my father and my uncles. And so when he did become president, he knew of the intellectual families and the families that would have caused him any threat and harm in his political career. He knew who to get rid of, and the Michel family was one of them.
Okay. So was your father studying in the US? Is that why he was already there?
No, my father had done his studies in Haiti. He was very accomplished at 19. He had a newspaper, um, already the director of schools, and he had come, he was doing dealings with Canada. Um, my father was a very humble man, so I found out a lot about this when I went to college at NYU. I mean, people would come tell me about my dad. He
Oh,
started the first syndicate movement in Haiti. So he was an activist, and he was also the campaign manager for Jumel.
yeah.
And Fadia knew of this. So he's even mentioned in the book L'Affaire Jumel, as a very intelligent, active member of the campaign. So yeah, he did his studies in Haiti.
Okay. So in the book that I was telling you that I read about Papa Doc, it talked about Jumel living on the same street as Duvalier and them being friends. And then they both were presidential candidates in the 1957 election. So it was at that point that I guess your father was seen as an enemy because he was working on the Jumel campaign. And because you said
Yeah,
you said that because he's an intellectual, and so Duvalier saw him as a threat to his political power.
right. So this move, in my opinion, was very Machiavellian. You get rid of a lot of the intellectual family, and you don't have really people that are oppressing you. As long as you're able to provide the masses with jobs and what they needed, he was able to do that, whether some were educated or not. But the actual intellectual families that were there before Duvalier, he wanted to get rid of them. He wanted to get rid of any opposition. So
Yeah.
naturally, if you are campaigning for someone else and you have a program and you have issues that you would like addressed, and perhaps the competition is ready to address these things and you're not, it might have been a problem.
Yeah.
And it was a problem because it wasn't just our family, but I've come across many other families that were actually chased out of Haiti.
In New York, you've come across them?
Yes, I've come across them in New York, Chicago, um, all over. Haitians are all over.
Yeah. Interesting. So, then you said that your dad always wanted to return to Haiti. You growing up knew that your family was gonna return to Haiti when things got better.
Yeah. So at the age of, I would say 2 years old, my mom died, and my father, I can still remember him telling me that we were going to return to Haiti. So by the time I became a teenager, I realized that he had a tuxedo in the closet, and he said that that was what he was going to wear to return to Haiti. So my words used to be, why can't we fight? Why can't we fight? And he would say, well, fight with what? Sticks and stones? That was his favorite thing. And so he had been involved in several groups to try to return to Haiti. And it caused some issues because many people did try to return and did try to overthrow the government, but it was a 30-year reign. So I did grow up thinking there was no hope for Haiti, or why doesn't America take over Haiti? I was too young to
Mhm.
understand the politics and the fact that a lot of factors played against Haiti staying truly independent.
Mhm.
So by the time my father had been dead 7 months when the Duvalier regime finally came down.
Wow.
That's something. He had been
Yeah.
gone 6 months. So, and I think I was beginning college that year. So it was bittersweet. It was very happy occasion, and it was very sad as well.
Yeah.
But my brother did go back to Haiti and resettled in Haiti, left a lot here to do that. And I always thought, chewed his head off and said, why would you leave the Hamptons and and go back to live in Haiti, and your life is in danger, because he did come across a lot of abuse of power,
Yeah.
and he eventually died in the earthquake.
Yeah.
But he left a beautiful family here, and we're all Haitian. As far as we're concerned, we're very proud to be Haitian. So he did leave a legacy.
Your father or your brother or both?
Both, both. It started from my father. I mean, we were raised in Long Island, and we didn't have a lot of Haitians around at that time.
Oh,
And
okay.
my father would take us to Brooklyn to go to church so that we could be around our own people.
Oh,
And he
okay.
would take us to Queens, and he did have somebody at the house that cooked and cooked Haitian food. And he had my aunts and uncles around. I grew up around my aunts and uncles, my uncle Jean-Claude and his wife Edith, and my aunts Claudette and Hilda. They basically taught us, you know, the Haitian food and how great our culture was. And my brother was the oldest, and lots of other influences. My uncle Max. These are people that really instilled in us the pride, the Haitian pride. And I'd love to talk about that more too. Go
About
away
Haitian
with,
pride?
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
So, you know, I own a few books, but I mostly heard from history. And my father had lost his eyesight as he got
Oh,
older, legally blind with diabetes. So I would have to sit and read the Observateur, which was a newspaper, and, you know, like struggle through it, reading
and he
French.
raised you speaking French, right?
Yes, yes, in the household. So we came from a kind of family. The pride of the Creole wasn't as it is now, you know,
Yeah.
the Racine movements and stuff. So felt for our own good that we needed to speak French in the household.
Mm-hmm.
And among us, if as long as, you know, they didn't hear you, you could speak Creole.
Mm-hmm.
So it was ended up being a good thing, because anywhere that I've ever worked, or my sisters, or anywhere, we have an additional language that we can
Yeah.
speak. And in addition to the Creole. And he always said, you'll pick up the Creole, you know, that's easy. So going back to my train of thought
About Haitian pride.
about Haitian pride. So when you look at the history of Haitians and the revolution and the fact that we were the first Black republic, it lends to a lot of pride. So
Yeah.
even though we're going through what we're going through now as a nation, we rely on that to keep going. So in the revolution, as it started um, in in 18 in the 1800s, and the bookbend ceremony took place in 1871, and then in 1797. So
Yeah.
in 1791, the bookbend ceremony took place. So from that time to 1804, there was a rebellion. In
Right. That's what I
1804,
read. Mm-hmm.
January 1st, we became the first Black Republic. But
Yeah.
people don't know that since the 1760s, in the 1760s, we were the most lucrative colony in the world on
Yeah.
the, so, and the reason for that is because of the sugar, the coffee, the cotton, which had started becoming very popular, the cocoa, and it was, you know, basically slave earned, you know. So and the whole area was called Saint-Domingue, which is very ironic now that, you know, some of us are being, you know, exported out of deported out of Saint-Domingue, which is
Yeah.
Dominican Republic. But basically the island itself was populated with Haitians, and or with, you know, people from Saint-Domingue, which were of African descent, the majority, and then the French. So when it got word that the revolution took place, of course, a lot of the Americans that were backing the slavery, the slave trade, the French, the Polish, a lot of people ran. Some stayed, but many ran. And they ran to the States. And that's why we have places like Chicago, and many of the institutions that were built, and the buildings and the wars and the battles that were fought in the Civil War were done with Haitians, because some people took their help with them. They took their maids with them. They took their house staff with them. And the Haitians were in, and still are in, Louisiana, in New Orleans, and a lot of these nations. So when you're raising your child, and as things got bad, for Haitians, like the 100-year embargo, where they wouldn't trade with us, basically left us to die because we wouldn't be recognized as a Black nation, as a progressive Black nation. So when this started to happen, I believe this is when parents started to talk about the history that they've had and to their children. And so this was the only hope. So my father always told me about my past, my brothers, everyone spoke about what great of a person we are. And the education was very important because it allowed you to think, and it allowed you to think for yourself and make your own decision. And which is what the Haitian person is. They're very proudful. They feel that we were the first republic and that we were very lucrative at a time. I wasn't born then, but I heard so many stories. So when you have that, you have parents that it could be very strengthening. You know, their words could be very strengthening, and it could also be very critical because they expect the best from you.
Yeah.
So it creates a strong Haitian pride that a lot of other cultures don't understand. And I spoke to you about this before, about megalomaniac.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So Haitians happen to be one of the only groups that in hospitals and other areas, and I've noticed that in my hospital as well, they want to be
I
able
was
to
going to
make
ask you, do you want to tell about where you work, that what your
Yes.
job is? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so as an administrator for healthcare and for my department, which is in infectious diseases, it's not a good place to be right now, but I work at Nassau University Medical Center. I've been there for the last 17 years, and I absolutely love my job. So I work with various diseases, mainly HIV program, but we come across, because of the immune deficiency, we come across people with all types of general infectious diseases, and also people with COVID-19. So up to now, I've been very lucky and very careful not to catch it, because basically we have 5 clinics that run at the hospital, and we have a couple of other clinics that run in our satellite, I would say the federally qualified community health centers as well. So basically my job is to manage a group of people that take care of all the barriers that come across, that our patients come across, as well as work administratively with the doctors, making sure that we see the clients, making sure that they get a caseload of clients, to, when I say clients, patients, to be seen, to make sure that client services are rendered, and that we stick to hospital and Joint Commission policies, and that we stay on track. So I absolutely love it.
Awesome. Sorry, you can go back to the mental issues you were talking about and what you.
Oh yeah. So what it has created, in my opinion, all the men in my family, all of them, are extremely proud, and I'm very proud of them. But I'm very proud of them, but they have created hearing this over and over, like a Superman. I would say a Superman, a person who feels that nothing could be defeated. And of course, I want my nephews, if I had sons, I would want my sons to be that way as well. And the women, it creates a strength that is incredible. There's nothing that I can't do. And there's nothing, I taught my daughter, there's nothing you could do. You can't do. When she wakes up in the morning and she's having issues with a friend, I will say to her, that's because they're jealous, because you're so beautiful. And one of the things that we have a problem with here in the States and in Long Island, I live in I wouldn't say affluent, a very comfortable area. And you don't have any people robbing your house. My doors stay open at night. My car stays open. But one of the things that we had problems with is people snatching children.
Oh.
So the way I taught her, we were talking about that yesterday, was to say to her, since she was a child, a baby, you're so beautiful that people will want to snatch you up, instead of saying, you got people that are going to take you and sexually traffic you, and human trafficking and all of that. I made it into something about her that's incredible. And
Yeah.
this is, I believe, a lot of the Haitian upbringing.
Okay.
It feel that because you are Haitian, you are above, you have come across, or your people have come across so many obstacles that you you deserve the best, or and it works in a good way, and it also works in a bad way, because if you're not you know, living up to that expectation, you develop a lot of hangups and complexes, and you cover it up with that megalomania attitude.
Megalomania. Okay. So
So
what,
that's
how would you define
illusions of
megalomania?
grandeur, illusions of grandeur, what I would say. Yeah.
Illusions of grandeur. Okay.
Yeah. So I had a friend, for instance, that was broke. You know, she had been going through a divorce, and we would go by a building, and she would drive by, and she goes, "I'm going to buy that one day." And I'd be like, "How?" With my American self, where? How? You know, like, you don't even have a car right now. And maybe she will get it, but it's just the idea, this air, this illusion of grandeur that
Yeah.
some people can't take. And I've seen it. I go to the Dominican Republic at least 4 times a year, and I've seen it among the Haitians there. And sometimes it's very good because it helps them to survive a lot, and sometimes it's bad. So where does that come from? The suffering that we've been through. And you know, we come from, people say that we come from Nigeria, from different places, but Wikipedia will tell you that we come from the Senegal Gambia area, which is currently Senegal area.
Martine.
So Senegal, and those areas, Western Africa is where we came from, and they tortured us a lot. So in the grounds, they would put us in, put honey on our heads and let the bees eat us away. And this was just entertainment while they ate with their friends. So being of African descent, there's a pride there as well. And I felt it when I went to Africa several times, a couple of times. And I think that mixed with some of our history, what we've been able to accomplish, has created, you know, who we are. And as a defense mechanism, we sometimes utilize what we've done to give us strength. And that creates the megalomaniac.
You know what? I think when you first told me about it, because I remember we were talking years ago, and you said there's a mental condition, and you said it was specific to Haitian men, and I think you used difficultation. Do you remember that term?
Yes. Well, those were my opinions. I'm not a psychologist or a counselor, but those are my opinions, and that's been my observation.
But you've read about it as well.
You told me that
you told me that it's in the book The Haitians, which I'm reading, but I haven't gotten to that part yet. But you've read about it too, right?
Yes, the book The Haitians with Lionel Picon or some, I don't remember, but I recommend it to a lot of people, and I haven't read it in a while, but it does talk about a lot of what has made the Haitians the way they are. And it's everything that I've read was pretty true, but the megalomania is in there, and it does explain several things.
So basically what you're saying is that it's something that gives people strength, but it can also be a deterrent to progress if you maybe aren't on the successful path, but you have you lack humility because of this mindset. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or, okay, so back in the day, if you weren't a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer, it wasn't a successful Haitian. Now times have become more modern, and people are now artists, they're dancers, they're rap singers. Kodak Black happens to be a rap singer, you know, Wyclef Jean, and all of these people have changed the mindset of the Haitian community. So you can be successful at whatever you do. And that's how I raised my daughter. No matter what she chooses to study, I will be behind her. But there's some people that are not going to school at all, but they're finding excellence and success in other things. I applaud those people. But I really do believe in the educational part of what I do, because, you know, family members and other people may not understand when you're going through a tough time. because of the fact that you didn't go to school. And it also, like my father made us speak French at home, it gives you other skills. That's all it is. It gives you other skills. So that leads a little bit about to, you know, my educational background and why I created CRE. I don't want to go ahead of anything, so I'll get to that whenever you ask me.
So do you want to tell about CRE, your organization CRE, and the inauguration coming up?
Yes. Well, I could talk to you about Center for Research and Education, and hopefully at one point we could share the website. But I started it in 1994 when I was in grad school. I was finishing grad school, and I wanted to do something with education that helped women. And I started doing research. At the time, there was no internet, or there was internet, but very limited use, and research on how people could go to school, because that's a passion of mine, is education. And I realized that in the area where I was living and the people that I was attracting, it was mainly people that were of wealthy background that were bored at home. They had already had their master's, or they wanted to work on their doctorate. And so they came to my organization to find out how they can finance it, how to go to school for free. And it wasn't based for that. It wasn't something that was supposed to be that. And I remember a girlfriend of mine telling me, I know you think you're doing something, but you're really not doing much at all. You're giving bored, rich women or women that had the opportunity to go back and find something else to do. You're not going into the community to do as much. And then it was pretty dormant after that. And then I would work with the Haitian community and work with other students, work with and excursions, like to go away, because international education was my thing, and international studies, studying cultures and doing research on cultures and things like that was a passion of mine. And so I really kicked back into gear, I have to be honest, in 2011. So my family and my sisters and everyone, I have to shout out to my aunt Rose, my aunt Fernan, because she instilled in us giving. And you know, when my mom died, she was my mom's sister. She did a lot of that and really taught us how to give to the community, as well as my dad. But so when we would go to Haiti, we would always give families. My family, my brother owned a hotel, schools, and we were always giving. But what really did it in a more organized fashion, and when I began to really work with the Haitian community, is after the earthquake. My sister Ketley forced me to go to DR, and I didn't want to go. I was one of these people that protested going there. And she told me, come, they opened up the borders. They're being really nice to Haitians. And I went down there, and a friend of mine, Andres, took me out into the countryside, and I saw the bates, and that was it for me. So I started by bringing 10 bags, 15 bags, t-shirts, buying food, waters, and then it has become what it is today, which is a full organization that helps facilitate community education. We provide relief assistance with food, household goods, toys. Every year we have a party with the kids and we give out toys. And we also give out our recent projects, which is under the umbrella of Proyecto Creo, which is now a Spanish and Dominican thing in DR. Um, when I say Spanish Dominican thing, it helps mainly Haitians, but it also is in a Haitian Dominican community and is helping Dominicans that are in need as well. So two things that we started during the pandemic, and I'm really proud of you who helped me through that, and other stakeholders, Haitians and other Dominicans that were very helpful, but it was mainly you, Project Esperanza, who facilitated us getting food to the people when COVID-19 hit. So you had been doing that for your constituents, for your people. And I asked you, how can I do that? And you actually went and bought the food, you too, with the flies, me too, I'm outside. Went and bought food and delivered it to the people that were distributing it. And I remember thinking, I'm all the way here and look at with everybody putting together and what we can do. So my friend Lissois Dupont, he's Haitian, and he actually has an organization that he runs. And when Haitians do come to Puerto Plata and they're arrested or anything, they call him at the cuartel and he goes and tries to get them released. He's not an attorney, but he really does a lot of work. So school books, school bags, assistance with schools, assistance with school meal programs, which your organization has benefited from. We do that. But the most recent ones were the senior programs, where we thought of the seniors, what is going on with them. And I almost wish I didn't ask. It was just so heartbreaking. It was very heartbreaking to see the condition that Haitian and Dominican, but mostly the Haitian population, how they're living during COVID-19. I mean, so we were able to send down diapers and food and wheelchairs and hygiene products for them. We haven't yet gotten to the food part yet, but we will get there to send food down. And I don't want to go there because I don't want to catch coronavirus, but because there's no mask. So we sent the masks and stuff like that. Another project is the Small Business Assistance Program. Where
Sorry, getting interrupted finally.
Yes, so the Small Business Program actually is working with existing merchants and to keep them in business while COVID-19 is going on. And then this way, for instance, we send them goods and we don't give them. We're actually showing them how to fish or allowing them, giving them the resources for them to fish for themselves, because these are people that have proven that they're able to sell, they're able to hold on to a business. I mean, to carry a business on, but not necessarily to hold on to it. So we were able to assist them with sending down some goods that friends of mine provided. And I'm talking all types, some of the stuff I bought, and they actually pay me back for the shipping and for some of the goods, so I can get a chance to do it to other organizations. So that's been working out well. And then they're able to hire other people. So speaking of hiring people, I have to thank you again for telling me about Sony.
Yay. So yeah, tell us how things went with Sony. I think some people in the Facebook group saw the dialogue there, that they saw some of his work and that you said you were going to hire him to do a job. So tell how that went.
Oh, that went really, really well. Actually, he built me, at this point, he's built me 4 or 5 things, but the main thing, and I think that was probably his biggest job ever. I'm not sure, but it was a whole lot of work. He built me a structure.
I think it was probably his biggest solo job ever, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a gazebo. And the gazebo that he built was all in metal and it's white. And he had to paint it, and I gave him a picture. And as you could probably tell by now, I'm pretty particular. So I told him exactly what to do, and he did it, and he did it in record time, and he did it the way I wanted him to do it. So he is a total businessman, because while he was finishing, he already had told me, I'm ready to do other things for you. And then after that, he built 2 twin beds for me. That's
with leftover materials, right?
Yeah. That's going into Casa Martina, which I'll talk about in a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then he built me, he's working on 2 tables right now, bar height tables for upstairs, which is where the study hall and the event hall is going to be. And then he's also built me the holder for the sink upstairs. It's going to be a double sink for when we're doing nutrition education and stuff like that. So he's very much, and he's got other project weight, because he works really, really well. And I just feel like sometimes it's not enough to give people money. And I think it could be insulting. With him, he was able to, perfect his craft, make money at it, and pay it forward. Because recently I needed some workers. I told him I need you, I need somebody else. I was down there and it was only a few days left and I was running out of, time. And I told him I need you, and he went to his church and he took another guy. And that guy is now building our red barn. Our red barn is going to be used for education, but mainly to house cows and the horses and the mule that we currently have. And it's huge. It's huge. I mean, for the amount of space that I have, it's pretty huge. And it was because of him. And he pays it forward because he goes and checks up on the guy every day to make sure he completes the job. So that, he said, I recommended him, so I want to make sure he does what he's supposed to do.
Oh, that's great.
And I know that Sony basically was under your auspices for a while. And I think you putting him as an apprentice with a welder was genius. This is a perfect example of showing somebody how to fish without having to give them fish for the rest of their lives. I mean, Sony could now provide education and maybe become have apprentices of his own in the future.
Yeah, and he had the right attitude, because there's a lot that don't get to the point that he is because they didn't have the right attitude. And I remember one time interjecting when a man who was working with us, he was kind of complaining about how much he got paid, but he was learning, right? When we first started learning. And the guy was trying to talk him out of going back because he wasn't getting paid well. And I argued with him and I said, no, he's learning, he's gonna make his money later, but he's learning, and Sony had the right attitude, but a lot of people, because of maybe pride or whatever, bad advice from other people, would have just given up and not gotten to the point that they're skilled like he is now.
So his attitude is actually going to create a lot of work for him, because I have sent out a lot of his work. He's already my groundskeeper is building a house, so he's going to probably do the gates with him. I have some connections over at Lifestyle, the resort club, and my sister told me we definitely have to recommend him because he can do that much quality work, and he's honest.
Yes. And that was a really cool thing we saw too throughout this, because you were kind of sending funds to me to help handle the funds, and then you kind of realized that it wasn't a very necessary step, that he was able to handle them himself, right?
Yeah, a little baby steps. So the other day, I paid him in advance. I paid him in advance for work he hasn't done. And just to see, I didn't have time to keep sending money, if here, there, and then I sent it directly to him, just to see. And in the time frame that he said it would do, he would do it. He sent me the pictures yesterday. He's installing, having the tables put up tomorrow. So the other thing with him also is he's able to collaborate with other merchants. So these are wooden tabletops. He's done the bases. I forgot the study hall tables. He's doing that. So he's done the bases in iron, and he's working with the local woodworker, which usually takes like months to finish my stuff. He actually goes there and bugs the hell out of him and tells him I need this stuff.
All right.
Make it together. Let's work. So it works on negotiating skills and his welding skills and lots of other things. So I think he could definitely be an example. And I'm continuing to recommend him. But the best recommendation is going to be at my inauguration of Casa Martina. I purchased a small piece of land. Some people might call it big or small. In 2016, with your help again, you introduced me to the medicine man, Hugo Gonzalez Suarez, and he was able to understand the project that I had in mind, working with natural resources. And when I say that, growing your own fruits and vegetables and being able to sustain yourself without all the commercialism. And he believed the same way, and he was able to sell me the land. And from that point, it's built. L'Histoire du Pont is the contractor for it. And so, and we have all of these projects going on. And I started off buying 3 animals, and now we have 9. We had 7, and then 2 of the cows are pregnant. So I do believe that it's been a blessing from God, if you believe in that.
That's what I was going to say, because I remember I randomly met the man who sold you the land, and we ended up going on this crazy trip up the mountain with him, with the random guy that we just met, and saw this land that he was selling. And then you called me a few days later looking for land. So I was like, I think this is something God has coordinated.
And then I told you what I needed it for.
Yeah, and it was
it was exactly a kooky idea, like the Cookie Man. So the inaugurating, he wouldn't mind me calling him Cookie, because he thinks that he knows the respect that I have for him. So and he knows that I'm just as Cookie. So the inauguration is set to take place in July. And so what we're doing is calling all of the community stakeholders, the mayor, the police chief, the people at Sony Norceides, the people that have helped me, like you and your family, like my Francesca, Francia, and her husband Giuseppe, Ricci, that owns Villa Carolina, Bob, who runs Jose Residential in Lisbon. So many people, the contractors, all of the people that did the woodwork, all of the people in the community. When my car would break down, my truck up there, they would come out of the woodwork with water to help my neighbors. Sony Gay, who is building the barn now with assistance. So many people and their families. Unfortunately, I can't invite everyone. My friends, my family, my sisters are coming. I have a sister, Maud, that's coming from Haiti. I have other sisters and nieces and nephews that have such talent here. I have a niece that is educated in political science, but she's one of the best herbalists that I know, and photographer. So hopefully she'll be able to come, take time away from her business to come. I have other nieces, nephews, cousins that are coming to support me, colleagues from work, from the hospital. So let's see what happens. But basically the celebration will be about the project and launching it. It's actually was supposed to start in 2020. We were pretty much ready, but COVID-19 said something different. So in that time, from 2020 to now, we've been able to get a gazebo together, get tables together, get another bedroom downstairs, several things together. So everything was with the right timing.
I wanted to thank my daughter, Yasmin. Thanks to her, she encourages me, supports me, assists me every day with the accounting, some of the finance, and as well as weeding out people that I'm surrounded with over there. It helps me with the business aspect of CRE, as well as some of the other things that we do, the assistance. So yeah, I wanted to mention bringing in family in the fold. She helps me work with a lot of the youth as well.
Yeah. So
Awesome,
why are you doing this? Some people test me and watch me. We came here. My sister and I became members. She was actually a member before of Lifestyle. Which is the largest resort on the island. And I realized going out into the community, because that's the type of traveler I am, was more fulfilling. And I saw the need there, and I also saw the money that I was spending at Lifestyle. I could put that back into the community, and the community was welcoming, and I had the support, like you guys. So that's it. We'll see what happens in July. I'm hoping everything goes well.
Awesome. It's really cool to see it go full circle to see. And I'm looking forward to the inauguration in July and seeing you again.
Thank you. Thank
Well,
you.
you are an
Well, you are an
inspiration,
inspiration,
Catalina. You know
Catalina.
that.
You know that.
We're supposed to have the press there, and I
definitely
want to add
want
that
to
in
add
whatever
that in whatever
paper, or
paper, or I don't know what form of press.
my
My
lawyer,
lawyer,
Guillermo Perez
in Puerto
in
Plata,
Puerto Plata,
he has been
amazing.
amazing. At one
He
point,
wouldn't
he
even
wouldn't even
charge
charge
me
me
anything. He said,
anything.
"I'm
He
your
said, I'm your
friend," and
friend,
he's
and
been
he's been
really,
really helpful.
so
He's been there. And
I definitely want to mention
people
that
that
worked hard to help me,
help
and
me,
that starts
and
with
that
you.
starts with you.
Oh,
Thank you.
oh,
Thank you.
oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that you're here. Glad that you're here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Well, I better go meet with some teachers. I had a meeting set up after this one. But thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And it was my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. See you soon. See you soon.
Okay, see you soon.
Okay, see you soon. Thank
Catalina.
you, Catalina.
Bye.
Bye.